So it could do so much damage to them as a company. The smart companies spend tens of millions of dollars protecting that information. And again, you have to look at that more like marketing, because you could do a ton of advertisements and try get $1 billion worth of market saturation or market effect. But one hack could knock that all down. So smart companies are spending that kind of money on security. And believe me, it's very secure. So that's one of the reasons too, and I know we've all been in password hell a lot of times, and that's why Apple requires the criteria they do for a password. They want it to be very secure, because the majority of these things that happen online are from weak passwords, not from them getting broken into. Yahoo's a perfect example. Yahoo accounts get hijacked all the time. So feel that it's safe there, and my philosophy on, especially with all this NSA stuff going on, my philosophy is, hey, yeah, I kind of turn my head and hope they don't care about anything I do, but I would rather have my data where it's very secure, and also Google and Apple have been fighting to try not disclose some of this stuff because they have enough legal clout to say, no, we want a subpoena if you're going to look for that stuff. Unfortunately, that pipeline before it even gets to Apple or Google with Prism is deflected, so they can access it. But I'd rather have my data where the biggest pool of data is, because it becomes more ubiquitous. And I always give the example of, if we were down at the Rose Bowl and they were having the football game down there, a big guy like me can pretty much hide in the crowd, can't I? But if we go out to that elevator out there, there's no way I'm going to hide. So I like having my stuff where there's a whole bunch of other stuff and maybe it gets lost in the chatter, so to speak. So, and it's inevitable. There are some ways around it, but it's very techy to do. But also what happens is you can encrypt your emails and things like that. But to be honest, that throws up suspicions. And there's some very, very bright people in the NSA that can crack through that. So you know what? You just got to realize, unfortunately, it's the way it is these days. So you have, nothing you can do about it. So you know what? If you can't change it, then you just try to go forward and just keep it in the back of your mind. But don't make it omnipresent. Don't be like a Windows user that's always constantly worrying about someone getting a virus into their computer. We don't worry about that on a Mac. Hey, your data, they're either going to get it or they're not, but just kind of operate with that and just go forward. That's kind of my blind philosophy on that. So, any questions on the whole thing there? Because it's reared its ugly head and it's made it more aware, but it turns out it's been going on for a while. It goes on with the phones and everything else. As far as your cell phones being tracked, that's how they caught Scott Peterson when they caught him because he went through, and then the cell tower pinged, and then they saw a little ticket from where he did the boat ramp down in Berkeley and stuff like that. So if you don't want your cell phone to be tracked, turn it off completely. Then what good is it? And just like I said there, I just did a reminder and stuff. I got to have it on. So, there's this balancing act always between convenience and security. And I choose to have the technology work for me and be more convenient. And I'll turn my head the other way on most of that stuff. So your choice is whether you want to go super secure or super convenient or somewhere in between. So Google, I pointed this out because occasionally on the Google search page, those of us that use Safari and go right to Google don't always get this. But these are called Google Doodles. And they're really neat because they'll have different holidays and stuff that they'll do a Google Doodle on the home page. So occasionally visit the home page, and the really neat thing is they've had things where they'll sit there and connect different things, and you can play a little video game in the Google Doodle. So check them out every so often. They're good. This is just one I happen to find on the internet. I don't know that there is one today. So next thing is Gmail. How many here have a Gmail account? Fantastic. It's because you guys have been coming to my classes. It's free, and you can have multiple Gmail accounts, and Apple Mail can check your multiple Gmail accounts, and you can use them for different things. I have 3 main Gmail accounts. One is one I keep fairly sacred. It's kenspencer@gmail.com, and I never give that out. But I have other email, like if you send something to ken@kenspencer.com, it goes to there and things like that. So I never give it out because I want to keep that one sacred. I have another one I consider a throwaway, and it's NOSKDN, like nospamken@gmail.com. And that's one of those where if I go to a website and to get further to read an article or something like that, they say, you got to have an email. Well, come on, they're letting me read the article for free. Okay, so I give them that email address because I consider that not necessarily a throwaway, but one, okay, if I get spam on it, it's my fault and I don't care. Ironically, it probably gets the least spam of any of my accounts, but that's kind of a throwaway. You should have one of those. And remember, by using Gmail, you have probably the best spam filter out there. And the reason for that is since they're the largest mail provider, when somebody sends out 30,000 emails that says, refi your home, make that thing larger, get this blue pill. When they see a bunch of those go through, they say, this must be spam because they carry so many of them, and then they direct that to spam. Because the spammers are pretty good. I've set up rules for certain things. I keep getting this one thing, and they change their addresses and different things. So you shouldn't have to chase it around. Let Gmail kind of chase it around, and the only problem is there might be some false positives. I've sent myself an email from one account to the other, and I was spam. So I had to go check it to make sure I wasn't. So occasionally you would log in and check it. The third Gmail account I have is a little less needed now that we have the iCloud I call it K-Links. So those websites that I didn't want to bookmark, but I know I might want to reference later because I read all of these Mac sites, and if there's tidbits of information that I want to make sure I have later, I would email it to that Gmail account so I always had that link to that article. I also, if I have an Excel spreadsheet or a numbers or a pages document that I want to make sure I have, I email it to there as a backup. And I even take, when I do my taxes at the end of the year, I do a PDF of my taxes and put it up there. Because that way it's there for good. I'm never going to have, and I'm not care, I don't think anybody can get into it. I mean, it's just very secure. And so that one I don't even really check because that's me sending it to myself so I can feel important that I sent myself an email. But I use that for reference. So I can go back to it, and I just called it K-Links, like Ken Links. So, you had a question?
And so you're using like a Dropbox?
More or less, this was prior to Dropbox, but actually a little different than Dropbox because Dropbox doesn't store mail. So this would be mails I got if I wanted to, but more than anything, websites, things like that. So that's a repository, a reference, a library, and I just leave it out there. And I send important things there. And the nice thing is I don't send a lot to that because if I have a lot there, then I'm not going to be able to filter through it. But, Google searches your mail really well. And, we're all used to organizing our folders and everything. But to be honest, these days, the searches are so good within your mail or within Apple Mail that you almost don't have to organize as much anymore. Go ahead.
On the Gmail account, I have, it says Gmail and there are 4,000 and something pieces of mail in it. Can I?
You need more. Anybody beat me? I have 62,000.
Well, can I dump them or?
Why?
Well, it fills up.
No. Okay, it's a good point. No, it's a good point, and I'm glad you asked it. Gmail gives you 10 gigabytes of storage. Dare you? Go ahead, try fill it up. But per account, yes. Actually, they've changed it now, and we're going to get into Google Drive in a bit. You actually have an aggregate of 15 gigabytes they give you now, shared between Google Drive, which is like Dropbox, and Gmail. So the deal is I always thought I was a hoarder until I saw those shows. I'm a keeper, okay? This is a 12-step program for Macintosh. It's not a 12-step program for hoarders. No, but the thing is that I know as soon as I delete that email, I'll need that darn thing. So with Gmail, their whole deal is you don't have to delete it. Now, if it's something you'll never need or it's spam or something, yeah, go ahead, but you don't have to because you can search by I knew I got an email from Tony, and I search for Tony, and it shows me all of Tony's emails. So don't feel any compunction to delete it.
Well, does that have because I put my emails that I want to keep, like in a family file.
That's in Apple Mail, and that's different. And yes, you can do that, and that's still, if you're using Gmail, that'll set that folder up on the other end, and you'll have that family folder on your Gmail account also. So you're moving it from your inbox to there, and it's still stored and archived.
Okay.
So you're not getting rid of it, and that's fine. That's a great.
Like, say, if I get rid of it in this Gmail account of the 4,000, will it take it from my family file?
If they're in your inbox, no.
But
If you delete it from the family folder, yes. But see, when you move it to a family folder, you're actually moving it from your inbox to a family folder.
Yeah, but will the Gmail one, the 4,000 one, take it from my family folder?
It'll take it out of your inbox
Oh, okay.
and put it in your family folder, if it's set up correctly.
Probably.
And this isn't a mail class, so we don't want to go in too much.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. In fact, somebody came up and was going to ask a mail question in the very beginning, so hang on one sec. Go ahead.
Well, I have less than 1,000, but I still get lost. And I think I need to get rid of stuff because there's so much in there and I can't find what I want. And I go to the
Search.
Spotlight or whatever it is. But I don't know what I'm doing.
So there's sometimes too, the thing with Spotlight or searching in your mail is don't be too restrictive. Like I said, an email from Tony. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe Tony is a female Toni and not Tony. And if I type in Tony, it'll never show up. So don't be too restrictive. Just type Ton. And then it'll show up with all the Tonys and the Tonys.
Then you get 1 million of them.
Well, it depends on, you said you only have 1,000, so it can't be too many.
I'd love
And how many Tonys do you have? No. They're all from Tony, right? If we were in Pete's class, because he's got an Italian last name. So go ahead with your mail question first.
In Apple Mail on the left-hand side under inbox and junk and all that, there's VIP. To the left is the
That's where all my mails go to you.
on the left is a twisty, and I click that, and then it indents and says book drop something.
You might have slid an email into the VIP. What VIP is it's a secondary box that you can assign mail to go to VIP so that you say, look, I'm getting all this other stuff, but I want to make sure any mail that comes from Tony goes in my VIP so I see it. I don't use VIP a lot, but that's...
How do you delete?
I'm sorry?
How do you delete it?
The VIP?
Yeah.
I think you can turn it off in preferences, but you know what? I don't want to go... We got a lot to cover, and I do mail classes, MAIL, and we'll go ahead and do that another time. So go ahead.
Does Apple have the same huge repository, or do I need to worry about the Apple Mail, or do I need to worry about deleting the Apple Mails?
Apple Mail, you get 5 gigabytes in your iCloud account, and your mail counts against that. So you need to manage it a little bit, but 5 gigabytes is a lot, to be honest. So, and frankly, I mean, I really like Apple Mail, but I love Gmail. So, and I mean, it's the one time where I really think Gmail. How are you? Grab a sheet right behind you there, Marilyn. There on the, it's a survey. To the left is a form, piece of paper. Gmail really, and they give you so much more with it, but I really think Gmail handles mail better than Apple's iCloud Mail. But I still use that, and I don't, there's a lot, you can use iCloud without having to use their mail. All right, so that's Gmail. We'll go into a little more. I think, who here didn't have a Gmail account? Okay. And you're using Chromecast, right, for yours? Or you have an old, you have a me.com that you've used for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're okay with that, but, and then who's your email provider?
I have Chromecast and iCloud too.
Okay,
Comcast.
Comcast. I'm glad none of you said SBC or AT&T Yahoo. I'm sorry, it's crap. It's the worst. Okay? Other things from Yahoo are pretty good, but sbcglobal.net, which uses Yahoo, is the worst, and it gets hijacked a bunch, and you'll always get, oh, if you need to connect, get a certificate and all this. It really is bad. Everybody that has that should be on Gmail and use it. You don't have to abandon the old one, but bring it over. But I encourage those of you using Comcast to get a Gmail account and start using it in place of it. Because what happens if I decide to form my own internet company and I come along and I say, I can give you 3 times the speed for 1/3 of the price? Well, I got my email with Chromecast and I don't want to leave because I've had it forever. It makes you independent of your internet provider. And it's a good player. And frankly, with our multiple devices, Gmail allows it, if I check it on my iPad or reply or forward, it shows up on my Mac that I checked it or replied or forward. With Comcast, it doesn't. It just says, hey, you've got new mail. In 4 different places, it's the same piece of mail. So it's a different protocol, and I really encourage that, mainly so you can be independent of your ISP. Okay? Google Maps, we're going to go into a lot. Now, I have to preface this with, in the fall, we all know that on our iOS device we have Apple Maps, which are really, really, really good. Yeah, there's a couple trying things, but you know what's funny is these incidents of Apple Maps giving wrong directions, there's just as many on Google Maps or TomTom and some of these others that have given wrong directions, but Apple has a target on their back, so of course they're the bad player when they give wrong directions. I think I've told a lot of people here, I had Apple Maps give me directions to a barbecue down at 8 Mile Road off 99, and I wanted to go try this barbecue. And it had me go to the wrong side of the freeway. It was a freeway interchange. It had me on the wrong side. Apple Maps did. And Google Maps sent me to the right location, right across the other side of the freeway. And it was the worst barbecue I've ever had in my life. I should listen to Apple Maps. Now, Google Maps has changed a bit. And I'm going to go over Google Maps because I think Google Maps on our computer is still good. But we're also now with Mavericks. If you can run Mountain Lion, you'll be able to run Mavericks in the fall, which is 10.9. And it will have Apple Maps built in. Okay? It's not, it is part of this battle between Apple and Google. But hey, competition's good, right? Everybody gets on their toes more and more. But what really is happening is, they're all fighting for it because that search business really is profitable, because if you click on something, they're going to highlight different things. But Apple Maps, the interface is even nicer. And what's really cool is on Apple Maps in the fall, if you go on your computer and say, okay, here's my trip, I'm going here to here, boom, you can send that right to your phone, and it shows up on your phone, and you'll use your GPS in your phone. You do your trip on the computer, and it sends it to your phone, and you pick up where you left off. Carl?
Yeah, on Google Maps, is it the same program for the iOS as
They're slightly different. And so, first on iOS, you can download Google Maps, and frankly, it's nice to have as a secondary one, but to be honest, I've used it once since Apple Maps came out. I love Apple Maps in the interface.
You download it rather than take one of the apps for it?
It is an app on the phone now. It's Google Maps.
On the iPad.
Yeah, on the iPad too.
You just go up to download the site of Google Maps. It's different, I think.
It has to be, the one in the App Store is the one you want because it ties in with the GPS. So this is just, I did a little map here of where we are and stuff. Google has Street View, which Apple Maps doesn't. We think they're getting more and more of that. You know, I got to say that Google's been doing a great job with their Google cars to go around and map the whole world. And grab a little piece of paper on your left there, please, Charlie and Leona. That's a survey each, so you can grab one. I still think Google Maps is going to be something you're going to want. Even when Apple comes out with their maps and go back and forth. But I think Apple Maps, the interaction between the phone and the OS is going to be good. But we don't know. I mean, I think Apple Maps is improving all the time, and so is Google Maps. I have to say, the new Google Maps on your computer is not an improvement. Some reason they just made it not as good. We're going to talk about that. So Google Map, another freebie that's really good. Now, Google doesn't offer many free things. All of this, Google Chrome browser, by the way. So Safari's the best browser, and you should use that because it interacts with all your Apple iOS and Apple devices. But you should also download Google Chrome. It's a browser. Anybody doesn't understand what a browser is, please speak, because I don't want to. It's how you see the internet, and you can have, You can get your gas from Shell or Chevron or Arco. Doesn't matter. You can get your internet from Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, etc. I don't recommend Firefox. They're lagging behind. Safari is the best, but Google Chrome is also very good. And it's nice to have an alternate browser and download it now, because if Safari, something screws up and you can't use Safari to get on the internet, how are you going to go get Google Chrome to have a replacement of it? So it's a real good browser, and in fact, there's some new things out now. Google just came out with a thing called Chromecast. It's a little $35 device you plug into your TV, and it allows you to throw anything on your screen in Google Chrome up to your TV. $35. Apple TV is still better, but it's got some features on it that are pretty neat. So $35, they're pretty neat. But anyway, Google Chrome you should get. Toolbar, I don't recommend putting toolbars on a browser. That's just a search toolbar. We all know in our Apple Safari browser, we just type it in at the top and it does Google search. You can do your bookmarking. We've talked about mobile. Google has a ton of free apps for your iOS device, and I'm going to hit a couple of those. Maps for mobile. YouTube, okay, we just talked about how you can go to YouTube and watch the classes we're talking about. We all know you can get lost for hours in YouTube, so that's YouTube. They bought YouTube years ago. Books. Google is scanning virtually every book out there. And so are other people, but you know what? It's wonderful because I've looked for some obscure things and it shows up and they'll show me the page in a book that they've scanned where that information is rather than being on the internet. So it's really, really kind of neat. I like Google News a lot. You just basically go to google.com and then go and click on news. And you can say, give me US news, give me world news, etc. And they're not making the news, they're just aggregating the news.
You can get your local news too.
Yeah, you can get local. In fact, it can put in local because it senses where you're browsing from, actually. Google Play is those. How many here have Android phones or Android tablets? Okay. Google Play is the store you have for your apps and things like that. If you get this Google Chromecast thing, it's where you get the apps for that too. Image search we're going to go into because image search rocks. How many people remember that big 35 CD Clipart collection with the catalog that was this thick, and you went through 65, 12, 18. Okay, I go look on the CD for that, and it's a picture of a cat, okay? So image search is really good for that. Video search also, so you can search, cats meowing while sleeping, purring, whatever. Picasa we won't use much. Picasa is very similar to iPhoto, but it's also storage. I'm going to talk in this class about Flickr in the second half, which I really, really like, and I think it's much better. So that's just the first page of the free things from Google. Here's the second page of the free things for Google. Google Offers is essentially like a Groupon type thing, and you can get it in your Google Mail if you want. It's local and nationwide deals, where the best pedicure is, massages, canvas printing on canvas photo printing, things like that. So maps we talked about. Panoramio I've not used, but it's actually, if you go on to Google Maps sometimes and let's say you want to see what Half Dome looks like, people that are taking pictures of Half Dome, sometimes they'll show up there. Latitude is actually going away. Google Earth. If you watch the golf these days, you see them zoom in on the Google Earth and this thing. It's really more than maps. It's a bird's eye view going from one spot to another where you fly out and come back in. And it's actually an app you can download for your iOS device, or it's an application you download for your computer. SketchUp is kind of cool. It's free. You can build 3D models, three-dimensional boxes and things like that. Blog search, patent search, finance. Google Finance is quite good. Like if I want to look up our favorite fruit company, Apple, I can just type in AAPL and comes up with Google Finance. And their stock charts can show you the history and different things. Yahoo has a good one too, but Google's is pretty good. Alerts. This is an interesting one. My brother used to be the district attorney in Merced County. So I set up a news alert whenever anything he did made it in the news, because I was just curious. I like to keep, we keep track of each other and stuff. And I put in my news alert that anytime anything made it in the net, on the internet, with my brother's name, Gordon Spencer in quotes, because that way it's his first and last name, because otherwise I'm going to get all the Gordons and get all the Spencers, and then Merced. So anytime an article came up that had Gordon Spencer as one word, because it had quotes, and Merced on it, it would show up. You can do a news search about anything you want. Don't be too broad, though. Don't say Apple, because you're going to get millions of articles. But if you want to know about
iPhone 6.
well, yeah, you're going to get lots about that too. And people want to sell you iPhone 6s already. So yeah, you could do that, but you put in quotes iPhone 6, and that's in your alerts. And you can actually have news search for it, but it can email you when something comes up specifically. iPhone 6 would probably be a little bit tough because you're going to get a ton of them when they hit the rumor mill, but it is good. Custom search, believe it or not, in Google you can set up certain custom searches. You can say only search this particular site for this information. Google Shopping is actually quite good. I use this for comparison shopping many times. We'll show you how that works on the search bar. The only thing is they tend to exclude Amazon. So if I do a Google search, I put the word Amazon in it, and then I make sure I get my Amazon hits. Because I use Amazon for all the reviews. If I'm thinking about purchasing something, I go look at the reviews on Amazon to see what real buyers have told me about it. Scholar to papers, that's not used much. Trends, who cares? I'm not a trendy guy. So this is the last page, I promise. Google Drive we're going to talk about. That's free storage on the internet and on your computer. Google Calendar. Now it's pretty good. Now I recommend Google Calendar if, let's say you're a large family and you have a family calendar that everybody can put to and you want everybody to see it. It works great for that. It's posted on the internet. You can choose who can see it, who can't see it, who can add to it, who can't add to it. I set this up for one client. They have a cabin up at Fallen Leaf Lake, and everybody needed to log in their times and reserve their spots. Now, she was the keeper of it. Everybody had to get a hold of her, but that way they could see what spots were open. So Google Calendar works very well for that. I don't recommend Google Calendar for syncing between all of our stuff. As much as I said I like Gmail over iCloud, for calendar and contacts, iCloud's got it hands down over everything else. Google Translate, we're going to show you that when we break out of this little thing. Google Wallet, similar to PayPal, it's another way to pay for things. Not a ton of sites are taking it, but some do. Gmail, we talked about. Sites, believe it or not, you can do a free website on there and set it up. There's not a ton of choices. Google Voice. I can call anywhere in the US and Canada for free. But we won't go into Google Voice today because that's a whole other class I've done. Google Cloud Print, that won't affect us that much because we use AirPlay or AirPrint for our iOS devices. Social, Google Plus is trying to make a push. There's some neat features to it, but I'm sorry, I'm not the guy to talk to about social things because I don't use it. Groups, Orkut, Blogger, Hangouts. Hangouts is actually a neat way to share screens with multiple people. If you had a family and you want to do a quasi-conference type call, anybody who has Google Plus, they can start a Hangout. What's really cool about Hangouts, when the person's talking, so there'll be a picture of one person and then the other 4 people are down below on the conversation, and whoever talks, it senses that, and that's the picture they put up for everybody to see. So if you're having this really back and forth argument, it could be like a strobe light going, but it's pretty interesting, and it's really neat technology that's being perfected more and more. And fusion tables, okay, well, encode, these are all techie things. All right, so those are the majority of the free things from Google. Go ahead.
To get to this, you just go to Google.com.
I went to Google, I'll show you. So if I go to Safari, and I go to Google. Don't type www, all that. So you'll notice up at the top, I have this bar across here, and it says more. And then, this is like not enough, right? I have to come down and I say even more. And at the end, there's not an even more part, but that's just this. And this gives you links to everything I just showed you. I just did screenshots of it. But let's go back, while I'm out of the keynote right now, And it appears that I'm not logged in. So let's log me into one of my accounts. Not that one. All right. This is an account that I don't use much. I use it for certain things. But you'll notice across the top here, that's if I wanted to use the Google+. That's good old Google search, which I have on the page. Images, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Maps, Play, YouTube News. So these are all the things linked to this account that I have. Okay. So, Google search. Now, you know that on your Safari, you just type at the top here, you type apple pie. That's a Google search, right? But sometimes, like we said, the Google window is nice to have. But if I want to search, well, the other nice thing is when I search, watch what happens. I'll start typing apple pie. It starts filling in other people that have typed apple PI have searched for these things. So it's really kind of helping you along the way. It's giving you suggestions. And I really find that really neat sometimes because I, first of all, don't have to type out the long thing. And let's see, recipe. So there, now I just start recipe, and I even get different types of recipes. Do I want the easy? Do I want the Food Network one? Do I want from scratch? Or I can just say, well, just give me apple pie recipe. And there it is. So that's our search for apple pie recipe, and it gives us all these down below. But I'm going to give you your Safari hint of the day. How many times do you click on this, wait for it to load, and go, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's click back. Oh, okay, then I go to the next one. Take your index finger, and we all know the command key, the Apple key, it's on either side of your space bar. If I hold the command key and click on this one, then come down here and click on this one and click on this one. Don't worry, you're not seeing it yet. Look over here, I have made tabs. So I've opened them in separate tabs, and I can go, oh, okay, well, that's not the one I wanted, so I close that. Okay, I'll keep that one. Oh, I already saw that one. I don't want it. And then, oh, and here's this one. So I open these little tabs, and then there's a little X when I hover over the tab. Everybody see it? To close that one. And the best part is I haven't ventured away from my search window.
How do you get rid of the tabs?
I'm sorry?
How do you get rid of the tab? Delete it.
Oh, you come up here, hover over it, and it becomes an X. Anywhere on the tab, can you see the little X pop up? It's hard to see. And then hit the tab. And I don't have to be on the tab to delete it. Tabbed browsing is wonderful. A lot of us used to use new windows. This is so much better than new windows. Think of these as file folder tabs. That's why they do it, so you can go back and forth between them all. Again, that command is hold the command key and click on the link, and the link will open in a tab behind it. Okay, that to me is huge. That really is useful if you're on slow internet where you need stuff to load behind so you can continue reading what you're doing there. And it's not just Google search. It can be at CNN.com if you want to open up 3 different articles to read them. You can stay on CNN.com and click on those. But this is going to be effective here in a second, because what I'm going to do is open a new window, and I'm going to go to Google. And I'm going to click up here on images, but let's not do that. Let's just type in apple pie, okay? And I'm going to hit return or enter. Now, you'll notice right here, I can say, don't search the web, search maps for apple pie. Well, there's probably some apple pie places on the maps. Shopping, I could shop for apple pie. But I want to show you the world's largest Clipart collection. If I click images, anybody know what this one is?
No.
That's a Mac Mini. An apple pie Mac Mini. So, here's those images. Now, let's see if I can find one. So at the top are some of the heavy hitter ones. I'm looking for any of these that might have Clipart or a stock photo thing. See how this one has a name on it down there? So you want some clean. Sometimes they'll, let's try stock photo. What happens is that there's companies that sell you images. See here's Shutterstock, good example. Can you see Shutterstock over this? That means if I use that image, first of all, it's a copyrighted image. If I use that image, it's going to say Shutterstock on it. If you put that on your business website, it's probably not a good idea to have the watermark Shutterstock over it because it means you stole it from Shutterstock. Now, for your own little brochure, that's fine. But we can go back and find plenty of images that don't have those watermarks on them. So, here's the deal. These images are out there. Most of them are not copyrighted. Most of them are free to use. But the sticky ground is if you use them in something commercial, a business website, a business brochure, you do have the possibility of having copyright infringement. So you have to be cognizant of that. And usually what happens, they'll send a cease and desist order, you take it down, and everything's done. So for doing your own little brochures and handouts, first of all, if it's printed matter, it's going to be really hard for them to search. But if you just linked to this on a website, they know what their images are. In fact, people do this on eBay all the time. They'll take somebody makes this really nice eBay ad for this MacBook Pro. And some other guy goes, well, I like his pictures. I'm going to use his pictures for my ad on eBay for MacBook Pro. If the guy who made the original one catches wind of it, he can go and change that link to that picture and say, don't buy from this seller. So the guy's linking to that picture and it says, don't buy from this guy. The other good one's over here. So those are called links, and there's things to do that. So there's embedded things that people can find it out. But for the most part, it's fine. Go ahead.
How do you get to Clipart from here? I used to do a garden club newsletter, and I use Clipart frequently because sometimes it's pull down.
Yep, I'll show you right now. They changed it a little bit. So before I go farther, we'll do that. If you'll notice here, search tools. Okay, so now when I click on search tools, you can say, these are filters. Think of these as filters. I have all the apple pie pictures in the world right now, right? So I can say, only give me ones that are large or only ones that are medium. Let's say you're going to print it, okay? I can say, give me a certain color, like as I want a certain background or something. Doesn't work so well on this, but if you were searching for, say, dresses and you wanted only red dresses. Blue dresses bring out a whole other connotation. Here is type. So if I come down here and say clip art or line drawing, oh, come on. Okie dokie. Let's try. There we go. So it went to line drawing. Line drawings are very, very... Now the nice thing about a line drawing is, if you blow it up or make it smaller, it stays very, very crisp like a font does. Let's go back and do clip art. What I do a lot of times is, I'll look for something and I'll say cartoon clip art. Because then it's kind of, you might get the little, funny things. Our internet's being somewhat cooperative.
What's the difference between Clipart and the images you just had?
Those were all images first, and most of those were photos. So, we'll see here down below. Clip art's coming down. Clip art is usually like the line drawings with colors. They're usually drawn rather than photographs, and our internet's all of a sudden just really slow. So much for the acid test later today. There you go. There's Clipart. And you'll notice some of these, like samples, some of these are also, usually these are watermarked because an artist drew these. But like that one's watermarked. So see, this one kind of snuck in. Actually, that is probably not a picture. That actually looks like a drawing. Yeah, I know.
And just a resolution, the same, resolution stays, you can make it bigger, black.
Well, Clipart and line drawings scale very well because they're what's called vector, which means they scale most of the time. Sometimes it's a picture of a Clipart and that doesn't scale well. But let's go back to our good old apple pies. And when we go to search tools, here's more tools. Show sizes. In other words, show the sizes below them. Because if I'm going to put something on the web, I don't need a really big one. But if I'm going to print a brochure, I want the biggest photo by these numbers down here that I can. So we're going to take this one step further, one step more to show you how to do this. So I'm going to click on this apple pie. So that comes up. At this point, I don't want to do it. I want to go over here and say View Original Page. Now, I will tell you that sometimes you'll get a preview and the image doesn't exist on that other site. But you know what? There's other ones. Go find them. Sometimes they've taken it down, but the thumbnail still shows. So there's my image. Now, if you're doing a newsletter about fishing and you know you want to use this again, so I come over here and I take my same finger I used command, I hold the control key, and look at these options I get. I don't care about dashboard. I can save the image, but if I want to reuse the image, I can add it to my iPhoto library right from there. It automatically goes into your iPhoto library. Or I can simply copy the image. Forget about the image address. You don't care where this image is. All it's going to be is that website. So I'm going to copy the image, and I'm going to pop over here to Keynote. Oh, cool. What are we missing at the factory outlets today? So, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do with this apple pie. There it is. And this is in Keynote. I can do it in Pages. I could, if I have to, put it in Word. So there's my little apple pie, right? Only problem is, look what happens. See the white border around the apple pie? If I were to put that somewhere, it looks really ugly. So in Pages and Numbers and Keynote, I can do this little thing called Instant Alpha. This is the little bonus for today. Instant Alpha. I just removed all that white. Okay, my hands will never leave my wrists, I promise. Let's do this a little bigger. So what I did is I put this background so you can see where the white area is, okay? So I have an image. I have to select the image. I copied and pasted it from Safari. And I go up here and I say Format, Instant Alpha. And then you can read this. It says, click the color you want to make transparent, then drag. Now, I actually picked one with a white background. If it had been a gradient gray background, it might be a little more difficult because it senses colors. But it says, click as you drag. So I'm going to hover over it. Look at it, becomes a little crosshair, right? So I'm going to click and drag. See the circle? You can barely see that circle. Now what happens when I go too far? There, see it starts getting my apple pie. Everything that's blue, it's going to delete. So if I go back a little, right there. Now I hit return or enter. And my apple pie has no longer a white background. So if you were going to put this in a newsletter or something, it would be a lot nicer. Instant Alpha. Pages, Keynote, and Numbers. Okay, so I will delete this slide. Go back to Safari. So that was images. Remember, it's the biggest clip art collection in the world. Google Maps. Google Maps. It's going to be a little slow to load. Oh, so look here. See all these little restaurants are showing up, Johnny Rockets. That's how they're monetizing this whole thing. But let's, I'm sorry?
Apple pie would be in those places.
Well, no, good thought, but I don't think that was related to that. Oh, it might have been, yeah. Yeah, look at that. So, perfect. So I'm going to do St. Mark's UMC. There we are. Okay. So I've just done a search. Now I could do a Google search under St. Mark's UMC. In fact, let's go back to that. Let's go to regular old Google search page, and I say Google search. I'm in Google. But look at this. Now Google is throwing this up over here. So if I want to see it on the map, I click on the map over here, and it fires it up right in the map. Okay. Now, I have a couple options here. You'll notice this over here says Street View. So I'm going to click on Street View. And this is actually, wow, that's from the parking lot. So I can move my Street View around. I'm going to 360. 360. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out by hitting this little minus key right here. And because I want to get back to the map. So I click the map down here. And what I want to do is I want to do a street view from here. So I'm going to move my little, I'm going to basically go right here. Why does it say New Rancho Cordova? So, oh come on, this new map's really got me. Street view. So again, you can, in fact, does someone want to go run out by the church there and wave? So I can navigate down this street by just see a little arrow comes up. I just click, click, click. Okay, we have to stop here for a second. Look left. Wait. Look right. Look left. And we want to go down this street. We got to go forward a little bit. Don't run into the house. So, hey, we caught him cleaning up the grounds there. So we're going to go down here a little bit. This is probably 18 months ago. The Google cars are driving all the time, but I think they kind of buffer it a little bit just to make sure that they don't catch people doing things or get in trouble. So let's go back 1, 2. Oh, that was actually us right there. All right, so now I'm going to click up here. Oops, wrong way, sorry. What I want to do is zoom in, hit the little plus sign, go down a little. Now I can go out there and you can see. So this is by a little car that's doing two things. This little Google car goes around and it has a big GPS and a 360-degree camera. So when it's going down the street, it's shooting photos all the way around it. People have done some neat things when they know the Google car is coming. They hold up funny signs or do different things to try punk the Google car. But anyway, that's where we are. In fact, right in here is where we are right now.
Did I read that they did the John Muir Trail?
They might have, and sometimes because there's, okay, so here's an interesting one, Google. Google has a program where their people that work for Google, they say, take 20% of your time and work on a project you want to work on. For instance, my friends live up by Grants Pass, and they just had a big fire up there. And Google Maps, now this was a regular Google thing, they actually do real life fire tracking. So they update their Google Map and show where the fires are. And so that's really helpful for homeowners, so things like that. During the hurricanes and floods and things, they keep it really updated. Sometimes those are done by private people. Google opens it up and says, okay, you can tag it into our maps and things like that. So yeah, I mean, they may have done the Mirror Trail. You can do what? A Google search and try see that. And that'd be pretty interesting. So I don't think they did it with the car, though. So the guy's going along with this big thing on the top. The cars are pretty interesting looking. I think most of them are Volkswagen. Actually, let's do a Google search. So you've seen maps now. Let's go back to the map. We'll do this, and then we'll do a Google search. So if I want directions to St. Mark's from Arden Fair Mall, see it autofills right here. And there's going to be, it's going to show up. It's going to take a second. Our internet's being a little slow. You'll notice it gives me alternate routes. And I hover over each route. Over here, let's see, I want to make sure I'm on car. There I go. So I can click on this route. Come on, hover, hover, hover. Oh, here's it is. So if I click on this one, they change these. It shows me the different routes I can take, right? Via I-80, come around the other way. So now, let's say I really want to go by Encina High School to get there. I'm going to grab this map, and now I'm going to grab this point and drag it down, and I can redo my path. I can say, okay, well, I want to go from here. I really need to, so you have to grab the line. Wow, that's doing it weird. So in this case, I'll hit undo. Wow, they lost their undo. Where is their undo? God, they keep changing this, and I'm telling you, it's really... No, but I don't think that undo will do it. No, because that's an editing thing. So anyway, you see how I really screwed it up now. So let's go back to Arden Fair. Okay, so there it is. Now, if I go to print this, if you still use paper, I can print it with the map. Actually, if I use their print command, and they've hidden the print command. Okay, let's forget that. Oh, options, here we go. Oh, I have one client who doesn't go on freeways. So you can say avoid highways. In this case, obviously, we avoid, well, there it avoids the highway, except for right there. I'll show you this last one. We're at St. Mark's, right? So I'm clicking and dragging the map. Now, if I click satellite, this is an overhead view of where you are. And I know you're all going to go home and do your house. You can see what neighbors have pools. And I'm just double clicking to zoom in. There was a question? Oh, I heard. Yeah, but it doesn't get that close. And no, I've never checked that. So you get a pretty good idea here. You can see homes all around. There's some pools. And that's the satellite view. Now you'll notice down below, wherever I am, these pictures along the bottoms are changing because that's the street views of the location that you're looking at. Okay? Google Maps is great, but you can also go up here and say, oh, let's go back to Maps. So we're going to turn it back to Map, and I'm going to search for Starbucks. We know there's probably a couple around. Oops, but I want to get rid of... So here's my directions to Starbucks, and you'll notice this little AB up here. I can say, no, I don't want to go from, I'm not going from Starbucks to St. Mark's. I want to go from, click the arrows and change it, from St. Mark's to Starbucks, okay? Now that's kind of interesting. A second, oh, it had the U-turn because, that's very interesting. Look up there where the Starbucks is by where we are. So if we're going from St. Mark's to Starbucks, this is how we would go. This means we have to walk this far, okay? They're assuming you're parked over here. But look what happens when I change directions. Because I would be leaving Starbucks, I have to go up to Kingsway, make a U-turn, and come back. Because it knows that you can't go the wrong way in traffic. Because Watt Avenue is divided there. So, and actually if you zoom in, you can see that the roads are divided. In fact, you can make a turn here, but you can't make a turn here because it's across the divider. And there's Don Quixote. See, it just pops up different things. And you click on this, and it'll tell you about the restaurant. And let's see, here's reviews. So these are reviews. This is very similar to what Apple Maps does with Yelp. These are Google reviews of this restaurant. All right, so we beat maps to death. We got a few more minutes. We did images. We did maps. Go ahead.
On some of these searches and stuff I've done, it'll come up and say, if you need to get into this particular site or image or something, you need to update to Adobe. Now, and this is in Safari. You mentioned before that we should not update Adobe.
No, I've never said that.
Why?
Adobe Reader you shouldn't use, but you might have to update it. This is Adobe Flash. First of all, on your iPhone and your iPad or even your Android device, you can't use Flash. It would make your battery life last about a half hour. On this, you can update Adobe Flash, and in fact, you should keep it updated. Flash is what lazy web designers put on so you can see videos. The way to get Adobe Flash is type in get Adobe Flash, because I want you to go to it this way and not click on any link anywhere because you might get something that's not in it. If I hit get Adobe Flash, I go here, and here it is, Adobe Install Flash Player. And you download it and install it. The newer versions of Flash, once you install it, it will automatically update, and if it comes up and says, should I update Flash, let it.
Now you're saying only for your desktop and not for your
You can't get it, iOS devices can't use Flash.
You can't on the desktop.
Correct. And that's, so the other thing is that's interesting, remember we talked about using the Google Chrome browser? Well, the Google Chrome browser, if I update Adobe Flash, it updates it for my Safari and my Chrome and everything because it's a plug-in that the browser uses to see certain videos, especially the Yahoo homepage. The Yahoo homepage has Flash all over it, and it'll make your computer fan spin up and make your computer slow down. Go ahead.
You wouldn't need to install Firefox.
If you have Firefox, it'll install it into Firefox too. But if you don't have the most recent version of Flash Player, it won't work in Chrome, it won't work in Safari, and it won't work in Firefox. So you download it and it works for all of them. And that, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because that comes up a lot, but don't be afraid of it. It's the worst thing it's going to do is slow your computer down when you go to a site that has Flash. Okay. So when we get back from the break, we got, what, 5 minutes till the break or so? I want to, okay, so here's, let's find a way to constrain our search in Google. I told you about using my brother's thing. Well, let's say if I do, see, this is weird. Google knows it pretty well. I put apple pie, and it knew to do apple pie. But if I do John, actually I'll do my late father's name. See, it's getting smarter with names because theoretically it's going to hunt for John and hunt for Spencer as separate words. Okay? It doesn't in this case because Google's gotten smarter. But let's say you have something weird like dark sunset. See, it's even doing that. But if you want to constrain it, put quotation marks on both sides and say Sacramento. So there it kind of gives Roseville, it knows it's there. Here, dark sunset words in Sacramento. Let's try it without our quotes and see. Actually, in San Francisco, it might bring up the Sunset District, for instance. Yeah, we got some different results here, because see here is sunset, here's darkness, here's Sacramento. It's treating each word independently. If you know you want to search for something specific, put it in quotes. And in this case, we had dark sunset in quotes, but then Sacramento. We don't want it dark sunset Sacramento because then it would only be things that are dark sunset. In fact, let's see what happens with that. We'll probably get very limited results. Yeah, see, no results were found for dark sunset Sacramento because it would have to be some wording somewhere on the internet that says dark sunset Sacramento. If I change this back to dark sunset photo Sacramento. Now, there's a bunch of, I don't know why the flowers are there, and I don't know why this guy's there, but anyway. So it's just a way to filter your results. And again, when you're searching, many times things are spelled wrong. In fact, Google corrects your searching. Let's say ubiquitous. Ubiquitous. It's correcting it for me.
Yep.
Google and Siri are both really good friends of mine because they help me a lot.
And behind the image, when you click on it, doesn't go to where that original image would seem to be something that doesn't.
What happens is sometimes so the way the search works is the websites are out here and Google has these things called spiders that go search every website on the internet and they're cataloging or indexing the internet, and they went out and they searched for the word Sacramento, they searched for the word dark, they searched for this, and they searched for images. In fact, when we look for images, Google now is doing image search. Before it would have had to been, oh, that says apple pie is what somebody named that image, or it's an image right by an article that says apple pie. Those robots go out and search it. So the index is what we see real quickly, shows that image. But in fact, if that image has been removed from the real website for one reason or another, not from anything legal, they just changed it and did whatever, the preview will show up there, but the image it got the information from 2 weeks ago is no longer there, and that's what happens with that. So, but again, there's usually so many choices. Of course, it's always the one you really want. But, well then, let's bring up that point. Let's go back to apple pie, because there is another tool you can use. And I'll click on images. Okay, so let's click on that. Then you would say, visit page. Okay? But you'll notice this. So in the case where when we hit visit page and it may not be there, look at this. Search by image. And it's found a lot of images. See, here's all of these sites that have that same image. And they're different. Empower Network. That's funny because we're Empower Mac. That puts my boyfriend in a food coma. The apple pie recipe that puts my boyfriend in a food coma. Okay. And then she kills him. Because he said he didn't like the apple pie. Before we leave, we'll go back. Before we do a break, I'll show you the news site here. So I like to go, I'll just go to Google's homepage, and I click on Google News. And you'll notice here on the left, These are worldwide top stories. Android, coincidentally owned by Google. North Central Valley. Oh, Central Valley. It's us. Okay. World, U.S., business, technology, entertainment. So let's say I go to technology. I click on technology. Now I can search within that for Apple. And it's actually got it down here. So these are news articles with Apple. Apple gets attacked by the Department of Justice. Yeah, they want them to settle on this books thing. And when you're a pioneer, you're the first one to get arrows in your back. So then these are some other things, and they show you. The other nice thing is they show you when the articles were posted. Because you know how normally when you do a Google search, if you're doing a news search, you may want what's most current, because what happened a year ago with Apple is not necessarily what's happening now. All right, let's take our little break. Have fun. I'll get us set up. Oh, I'm going to quit the recording. If you wouldn't mind, set them. Let's set them on the far side. We'll take the next name. Right over here, please.
I think it was today they had something about dealing with your pictures. Go to that site and see if
Oh, hang on.